Welcome to this edition of the Mayor's Report for Pleasanton. I'm your host, Sblend Sblendorio. Joining me today is Vice Mayor Matt Gaidos from the beautiful city of Pleasanton. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Sblend. Nice to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah, great. Well, you know, we usually start the show with something of your choice, with this case, Vice Mayor's choice.
Appreciate that. Yeah, so DeLucchi Park, as a lot of people know, the unveiling of the Don Lewis Harmonic Symphony, an installation, a public art installation honoring Don, who was a pioneering musician, inventor, educator, longtime Pleasanton resident. There was a big turnout, including family members of his, friends, musicians, community leaders, and residents. What was meaningful is that he has a long-standing impact on the community here in Pleasanton and influenced a lot of lives through music, innovation, mentorship, and education. And the public art installation, helped out by the grants from Gary and Nancy Harrington, is a unique addition to our public art collection and is an interactive, designed installation to be enjoyed by all ages. It encourages creativity, collaboration, shared musical experience, and people can connect through music and play. It's called Maestro, and it's a bunch of different sculptures created by the artist Anton Stantener and the team at Mountain Forge. And so it's a long-lasting tribute to Don, his legacy as an educator, and the project was made possible again through Gary and Nancy Harrington and the Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council. And so it's a lot of kind of wind, I wouldn't say wind instruments, but they have attached, you know, percussion instruments that have chimes, and it's kids love it. I've been out there 3 or 4 times. And we were really putting some investment into our public art spaces, our cultural experience, and community gathering. So I encourage residents to go out, play with it, bring your kids, bring 3 or 4 people, make some music, and learn more about Don Lewis. Look at the statue we have of him. Again, Maestro, that's for him. I will say, you know, if you go out there past 9:30, maybe don't hit them as hard, and some of the neighbors there are getting a little extra wind chimes at night, and I've heard some folks came home and they're like, wait, how late does this thing go? But it's there all the time, so maybe a little less late at night. But
all right, Matt, let's remind people where DeLucchi Park is,
sure.
And also what other, I know the bandstand is just off the bandstand, but it's also across the little creek from the Firehouse Theater. So.
Yeah, so the bandstand is at the south end of the park, and then the wind chime and Don's thing is the north end of the park, near kind of where the bathrooms are, kitty cornered from the dairy. So it's tucked in there against the creek. So if you're, you know, looking at the bandstand, it is from the perspective of the bandstand, the next green strip over on the right-hand side, just behind where the bus stop used to be tucked there.
Well, I've drive by it a couple times a day, and I've seen lots of kids hanging out there.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Very cool. All right, anything else you got for us on your choice?
Yeah, nothing, just that. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about, you know, we recently had a primary election in California, and there was some local activity, but let's talk about something that we know is coming up in November, and that is a fairly substantial and widespread tax measure to support transit agencies throughout the Bay Area. First, give our viewers a summary of what is proposed.
Sure. So it's SB 63, which is called the Connect Bay Area Act, and it essentially, for the next 14 years after it's passed, I believe starting next year, will impose a 0.5% sales tax in Alameda County, Contra Costa County, and Santa Clara County, and a 1% sales tax in San Francisco to support transit systems throughout the region. You know, during the pandemic, ridership went down. Those agencies are hurting for funding, and despite, you know, their cost-cutting measures and efforts to increase ridership, they're still needing some gap funding. So this legislation authorizes a regional tax measure, and it'll appear before the voters in November. Again, a 14 years measure. It'll sunset after that, and it's projected to raise, if it passes, $980 million to sustain those transit service agencies like BART, AC Transit, Caltrain, Muni, and other transit operators, while also, you know, it won't just be for their operational costs. They will pass things through for ridership and transportation improvements and enhancements. And so earlier this year, there was a temporary bridge loan to help keep several Bay Area transit agencies operating while longer-term funding solutions are available. Governor Newsom came out, and several of the local board members were out there for that. And so BART is expected to receive a pretty significant portion of the funding. which again is intended to maintain service in the near term while voters consider this regional measure in November. And so for Alameda County, we're looking at benefits that support county transportation, connect residents through the East Bay and Tri-Valley voters, Tri-Valley region, but ultimately this is going to be a gut shot for the voters. They're going to have to decide whether to pass this tax measure to reduce the impacts and reduce the impacts on local transit. So come November, it'll be on the ballot, and the voters are going to have to decide whether to fund these agencies or not.
All right, Matt, let me ask you a kind of an important question in my mind, and I've heard others voice the same.
Sure.
Accountability.
Right.
I mean, we love it, hate it, whatever you want to call it for BART. It's obviously been around for decades, and people rely on it. And then people say, well, why are we throwing more money?
Right.
Are there any accountability provisions, to your knowledge, that on how if it passes and how the money's be spent?
It does, yeah. The measure includes accountability and oversight requirements to basically make sure that funding is used as outlined in the expenditure plan for the bill, to just support transit operations and improvements throughout the region. So there is a provision there that requires that oversight to make sure the money is used as intended.
Right. Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned that there are other transit agencies, and even our local transit agency is scheduled, or if it passes, scheduled to get some money also.
Correct.
Okay. All right, let's move on to a project that maybe folks aren't aware of.
Yeah.
It's called the Hidden Canyon Housing Project in the western part of the city. Tell us a little bit where it is and what's being proposed.
Yeah, it's kind of, we said at the meeting, it's too bad it's actually hidden because it's absolutely gorgeous. Just back off Dublin Canyon Road, it's 131 acres that we're annexing, and it's a residential development along Dublin Canyon Road in sort of western southern Pleasanton. And like I said, it's hidden and you won't see it too much going by, but I hope, even though it's gated, folks get an opportunity to go back there. There's going to be public access, but the developer did a beautiful job developing it. It is it's a very unique aspect of the project because the residents are focused on only about 28 homes only, but on 131 acres. And so the houses occupy a relatively small part of the site, and the most significant benefit to the public in this is that the partnership with East Bay Regional Park District. They are basically making access to the southwestern part of the ridge. They're putting in staging areas, bathrooms, parking, and 69 acres of this project is dedicated to East Bay Regional Park District immediately, and another 7.6 acres through a future agreement. And so in total, 77 acres of this is getting designated for the East Bay Regional Park System, and they're going to connect all the trails to the top of the ridge, and that's the part of the ridge that, when the sun has got that southern exposure, you can hike up the ridge with the sun filtering through the trees as opposed to on your back going up the eastern face. So again, staging area, planned amenities, and it's just going to be a beautiful project. So.
All right, so Matt, let's talk about the trail aspect of it. So this is a partnership with East Bay Regional Park District.
Yes.
I'm just curious, why not the Pleasanton parks? Is it because there's some sort of other trails out there that are connected or managed by East Bay Regional Park District?
Yes, the Pleasanton Ridge, obviously, that's our local park, or East Bay Regional Parks, and they manage all those trails up there. And so these trails will connect with those trails that will go all the way, following along Foothill Road at the baseline there, all those vertical trails that connect to the top of the ridge. So this is will interconnect all those trails. There's a bunch of cyclists I know that are super excited about it, hikers that are super excited, and all of that benefit locally for our residents and our hikers and our outdoor enthusiasts for only putting 28 homes. I just really have to commend the developer for working with the city. As they had some restrictions on them, based on Measure PP, which is a great measure we passed to protect the hillside. So there was a lot of interplay working with that, but they did a fantastic job. And we get housing credits through our arena, and overall, I think it just represents a fantastic open space preservation, expanded public access, regional parkland, long-term benefits, and beautiful housing that will not materially change the landscape back there. So we happily, happily signaled our support for it.
Matt, what was this property used for in the past?
Cattle ranching. It was just kind of sitting there open. There were some local ranchers who have had the land going back, 150 years. They spoke at the meeting, so it was nice. So there's still going to be some cattle back there, and some old ranchers living on some of the property. So
Keep the grass down.
keep the grass down.
All right. And then lastly, let's just ask about the 28 houses.
Yep.
So I take it single-family residences?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, large yards, and the back fence lines are going to be great because they're going to be open. It'll be wire and a little bit amount of wood. So when you look out the back door, you get to see the whole hillside. And if you're hiking around there and you look up, you're not going to see fences that close off and make it look like an awkward residential installation. It's going to blend in nicely.
All right. Sorry. Last question. Back to the trail.
Yeah.
So East Bay Regional Park will make necessary improvements, put in, or the developer will put in a staging area, parking lot, and also build the trails, or we'll come back later with East Bay Regional Park to build the trail to connect to the rest of
Yeah, I think it's all going to be built out all at the same time. So
Okay.
I think actually you might be able to hike up the trails before the houses are even done. So,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back on this edition of the Mayor's Report for Pleasanton. Welcome back to this edition of the Mayor's Report for Pleasanton. We are here talking with Vice Mayor Matt Gaidos. Welcome back, Matt.
Thanks, Glenn. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. All right, now this is, I think, probably one of the most exciting developments in Pleasanton in a while, and it, maybe for the reasons that I'm overstating it, but a lot of us know having good health care in our area is so important, and a major announcement, major groundbreaking by Stanford Tri-Valley to expand the facilities that it has in Pleasanton. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, Stanford Healthcare Tri-Valley did their groundbreaking, celebrated the groundbreaking of the East Wing at the Pleasanton campus. We call it Valley Care, but now it's Stanford, Stanford community here. And it's a big investment in the community, $200 million towards a project that Stanford put in. The expansion is really designed to help the growing needs of the Tri-Valley region, which we're going to see steady population growth with development here in Dublin, Pleasanton, Livermore, and the increasing demand for the emergency services. I've been to that emergency room, and we're happy to see that they're going to expand that department. The expansion of the hospital hasn't matched the expansion of the emergency department. So now they're addressing that, and we've had a 30% increase in the last 10 years or so with emergency room visits, and so they're going to more than double that East Wing there, and it's going to be a 66,000 square foot East Wing is going to double the hospital's emergency space, 24 additional emergency room treatment bays, 3 triage rooms, a larger patient waiting area, a dedicated fast track treatment to improve patient flow and wait times. So when that's finished, it's really going to be a huge improvement over what's going on right now.
So you said $200 million, and that seems like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But this is a pretty big expansion, and it shows what Stanford believes is happening in the Tri-Valley, doesn't it?
They do, and hospitals are not the cheapest thing to build. It requires concrete walls and oxygen and different kinds of power, so they're not the cheapest things to build. So we're really appreciative of their investment in our community, and it's going to provide a lot of critical support services. Pharmacy, hospital, a lab's going to be there, sterile processing operations, and so it's a big improvement. And like I said, hospitals require additional construction considerations. And so in addition to expanding the healthcare services, infrastructure improvements that are going to strengthen the hospital's operational resilience during a natural disaster, such as an earthquake, which is what we would normally experience in California. And it's also designed with future growth in mind. This space is going to be able to support additional inpatient services as our community needs evolve and folks get older. And so it's a really great project. They're getting started with it now. Construction is expected to continue over the next several years, but it's going to happen quick. Phased openings are going to be opening as soon as 2029. So that's just around the corner.
All right. So wow. So that's 3 years to build. Now, with that, Matt, doesn't it also mean hiring more physicians, more physician assistants, registered nurses and staff, et cetera, right? So that should, if you're doubling the size of it, that's got to mean a substantial amount of increase in employment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always good for our community, and we want people to live here, to work here, and work and care about our community. And Stanford Healthcare Tri-Valley really just has a big commitment to our community, and they provide high quality health care close to home. And my 4 kids were born in that hospital, so I know it. I've gone there. My physician's there. my kids. Pediatricians there, and it's like a home, and it's just getting better and bigger for our folks. And for those young people in our community that want to stay, I encourage them to go into the healthcare industry and become nurses and physician's assistant and physicians and doctors and surgeons and work close to home. And when we're really happy that Stanford's investing locally, and we look forward to the expansion and all the community benefit that's going to bring.
Right, and this isn't just a Stanford benefit. I mean, right. a Pleasanton benefit. I mean, this is basically the basic emergency room for the entire Tri-Valley, isn't it?
Yeah, I say Pleasanton because I'm the vice mayor of Pleasanton, but Stanford, you go a mile across the street on Santa Rita, you're in Dublin, and then Livermore's just down the way. So this is really the core hospital in the Tri-Valley, and even beyond that. So San Ramon's got their facilities, but this is really the crown jewel of healthcare in the Tri-Valley here. So
as I understand, Stanford is also bringing some of their specialists and specialties over from the peninsula for our benefit.
Yep, and with an aging community and a growing healthcare needs, it's great to have all of those specialists here, and that's such a high quality healthcare. We're lucky to have them.
Okay, well I expect to hear more from whether it's you or the mayor in the coming years, just to talk more about the progress and opening and phased opening of this, because this is really dramatic for the Tri-Valley.
Yeah, it's going to be big. There's hopefully they got a parking structure coming in the future, because that can be a little challenging there, as we know. But it's such a great facility, and they've left some room to expand. And I expect with the team they have there and the leadership they have on that board, they will continue to make very wise decisions that benefit our entire community.
All right, Matt. Let me switch subjects. Sorry, it's always I think folks maybe not understand how cities are operated. You're on the council, you're vice mayor, but you make decisions. And you provide strategic guidance to the city, but really you have a CEO, don't you?
We do.
It's called a city manager.
Yes.
And you may be akin to the board of directors, and you give some strategic direction, but really it's up to the city manager to implement your direction. And you lost Jerry Bowden recently. He moved on to the city of Alameda. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing to transition and about the search for the new city manager.
Sure, yeah, we wish Jerry well. He got a good opportunity to go back to Alameda, where he had been, I think, one of the assistant city managers before, the director of community development before he was here. And we want to thank Jerry for his service to the community and Pleasanton, and wish him well in his next chapter. And so, unfortunately, the movement of city managers is not an uncommon thing. The lifespan and career the number of years you spend as a city manager, unfortunately, sometimes is lower than we'd like. But we made a wise decision to appoint Joe Calabrigo as an interim city manager. Joe, for everyone who doesn't know him, brings 30 years of experience here. He was the town manager of Danville for I think 20 or 25 years. He just retired recently, so he carries a lot of the local institutional knowledge of a town and city with the values that we have in Pleasanton, the values that we have in a small town or city like Danville or Pleasanton. And so, his extensive experience, steady leadership, and deep understanding of local government made him, I think, the best choice. And on our last council meeting, we appointed him, and he started this past Monday on June 8th. And so as far as the search for a new city manager, we have, because Joe will be the interim, and the process to find a permanent city manager will take 4 or 5 or 6 months. And so we've contracted and retained Bob Murray and Associates, which is a nationally recognized executive recruitment firm, to conduct a nationwide search to find Pleasanton's next long-term city manager. And so that's going to be the process. There's going to be candidates that are going to submit their application. I know Bob Murray and the folks working on this are hard at work on bringing the council the best candidates. And as you said, Sblend, in the council manager type of government. The city manager essentially works equally for 5 council people, takes direction from all of us, not just one of us. And that's why we have public hearings and we agendize things and we have a majority of people to really express what the interest of the council is, to be the best stewards of the taxpayers' money, which is essentially, I think, is what we do.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember, ultimately the city manager is responsible for keeping the lights on
Yep.
and the parks clean and the streets paved and potholes filled and et cetera.
Yeah.
And it's a very important position because they end up hiring the folks that do all the wonderful things that keep Pleasanton a great place to live.
Indeed, yeah. All the department heads report to the city manager, and they're responsible for, lots of things. I mean, in Pleasanton, we're facing issues with our water and sewer. I mean, a lot of our neighborhoods were built out in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and the useful life of all those pipes underground are 50 to 70 years, and it's 2026, and so we're getting there. So Jerry did a great job of I think planning for the future and doing some infrastructure with water and sewer, and those plans are in place and will be in place to make the financial investments in the future of Pleasanton. It probably would have been best to do it a little more incrementally all over the way, but we are where we are and we had to do what we had to do. And so but the recruitment process for the new city manager is going to identify somebody with experience, leadership skills, and the vision to take Pleasanton into the future. So we're really happy to have Joe Calabrigo in the interim. I just saw him this morning, an hour ago. He's hard at work, rolling up his sleeves, getting to know everybody. And I think he's going to provide a lot of stability as we put a thoughtful and thorough search into who the next city manager is going to be.
Okay, so then you said about 4, 5, 6 months to find a new city manager.
Yeah, I think by, November, December, that's usually when it's going to happen, and it coincides with the election for 2 city council seats. So we have a plan to, make sure that everybody's informed about the search and what's going on. So that next city manager who's coming in is really comfortable, with the composition of who the council is going to be and the direction that we're headed. So we have a plan to have communication about that, and I think with the stability in our organization. What we have on the council, I think we're going to be able to get a really good candidate to come in here and take those values forward.
Great. Okay, looking forward to meeting whoever the new city manager is.
Yep.
Always wonderful things happening in Pleasanton.
Yep.
Start of the summer. Obviously, the fair is going to start up real soon here, but I know there's a lot of other things going on. Give us, our viewers, just a little, hopefully some inkling of what's going to happen here in the next month or so.
Got a whole list here. So, obviously 4th of July is big in Pleasanton. This is the, 250th. We're at a big point in American history right now with all of the things we did to get where we're at. So celebrating our Independence Day. Again, the Pleasanton Lions Club every year does a wonderful concert at DeLucchi Park on the band stage. This will be, I think, the first time they've done it on the new stage, if I'm not correct. Maybe they did it last year. But it's a free community concert, a wonderful opportunities for friends and families and neighbors to gather in downtown Pleasanton. And again, the 250th anniversary of the United States, this is really going to be special. So it's a long-standing Pleasanton tradition and really brings the community together through music, patriotism, and civic pride. So, that's the next big thing that's coming. The county fair, as you said, starts in late June here, and is really, I think, a tremendous thing for the community. Get your concert tickets ahead of time. I remember when a ticket to the fair, you could catch the 6 or 8 o'clock show for free, but now they're selling tickets ahead of time. So, check into that. Again, take a walk through all the exhibit halls and look at the local artists and the folks that are making jam and quilts and photography and art, and you'll recognize some names. That's been one of my favorite things to do, and really take some time to look at what the community puts into our contribution to the county fair.
Matt, I'm not going to let you ignore some of the hawkers that sell things that you need to have in your house. It's always fun to watch those guys work the room with selling everything from the latest knife to the latest ladder.
Oh, these. If you want a knife, if you want a juicer, if you want a doorknob that twists for you, anything you want, they have it there. I just, hold on to your pocketbook when you go through there a little bit, because those guys are convincing. So.
All right. So. Anything else you want to mention?
No, that's about it for right now. We'd really love to see everyone come out for the 4th of July celebration, and stay tuned. The first weekend has been a hit. This last weekend we had concert in the park. We had the longest table event on Saturday night, which was just a knockout success, wonderful time. And on Sunday, we had a country fest downtown and country bands, and it was a great time. So I think that the PDA and what's going on downtown is just hitting it out of the park right now. I know I got a ton of emails thanking the city council for doing all that. And some of our local businesses really enjoyed it, and so we're looking forward to continuing that, and they're just doing a great job. So shout out to the PDA and all they're doing.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for being here and updating us.
Happy to be here, Sblend.
And thank you for joining us on this edition of the Mayor's Report for Pleasanton. Join us for the next episode of the Mayor's Report right here on Tri-Valley TV. I'm Sblend Sblendorio. Thank you so much for watching.